Hey guys, kinggath here, and welcome to another episode of the kinggath podcast. Today's guest is what I consider an old friend now. He doesn't realize how much he actually inspired the continued development of sim settlements in the early days, and he was the former editor of my video series on YouTube. Welcome, Ricky Summer.
Hola, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Thanks for coming, man. And thank you
No
for all
worries.
the work you did on helping me with the YouTube channel. Because, man, the channel is an interesting thing. Like, it's something I've never really had this motivation or goal to be like a Let's Player or an influencer or whatever the hell, buzzwords they've got for people who do that. It was always just a way for me to get information out about this monster mod I'd created. And then it started bringing in a little bit of money, like a little bit of ad money. And I was like, well, that could help fund the development. And then I talked to you like, what was it? Maybe August or September of last year. And I was like, what, could we turn this into something real? And then that's when you came on board to try and help me grow the channel a little bit. And you've got a lot of experience in that and in trying to grow YouTube channels.
Yeah, it's sort of experience is a little bit odd because it's like I feel like I know a lot, but probably more so like not what not to do,
Did you learn that through the School of Hard Knocks? Just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what works and doesn't?
Yeah, that's right. I kind of feel like a grizzled old veteran of YouTube, but I also feel like an ass for feeling that way because I never made it in the traditional sense of the word.
Right. But I could see you had all the markings of like a professional at it. Like when I first found your channel, when I was searching YouTube because after I released Sim Settlements, I wanted to see like, are people playing it? And then I found your series that you had launched with Frank, and I thought it was hilarious. It was well edited, and it was clear like the route, the routine to go through that people tend to do for those. But yeah, your channel like has never been one of the mega channels, but I think that might be just kind of a part of it is a limitation of the algorithm. Like it's almost designed to create the hierarchy of there's only going to be a couple of kings and everybody else is just fighting for crumbs.
Maybe. I recognize, like, I never want to fall into the trap of like, oh, it's the algorithm's fault that I'm not famous. I firmly believe that it's entirely my fault.
Okay.
And if you want to go into it, I can tell you why.
Oh no, I would
think
love
that,
to because I think that there's a lot of people. I think there's reason you should have a little bit of both thought is my opinion on it. But yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I stumbled on something that was successful, and I really should have just gone balls to the wall and ran with it. Instead, I flip-flopped a little bit back and forth. And just for context, that thing that was successful was Skyrim. But I got so burnt out on the game. I got a little bit ornery about it. And I should have done one of two things. I either should have just doubled down hard on Bethesda games, or branched out much, much earlier than I did. Instead, what I did was I doubled down on Bethesda games, then decided I don't want to do this. So tried to branch out, I think, a little too late. And then I flip-flop back and forth, and it's entirely my fault. I kind of ruined my own channel a little bit, in my opinion. But it's fine. I feel like if I had doubled down, I probably wouldn't be happy with where it is right now.
Sure.
Like I may be doing all right in terms of having a healthy channel, but I don't think I'd be personally happy with it. So I'm not too upset.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more before, because I definitely want to dive deep on this stuff, because this YouTube stuff fascinates me, because I watch a lot of YouTubers like regularly. Like I watch all their content, and it's very interesting to see the rises and falls, and people complain about the unstable income, and then they can't understand how it's going. That stuff's all interesting, and I think you got a lot of experience there. But because a lot of our listeners are here generally for modding, let's talk a little bit. Let's get talking about Sim Settlements first, so people who are just here for that can cut out later when we start talking all the nonsense about YouTube.
Talking shop.
So one of the things about your series that really drew me in was you didn't read the manual. I could tell right from the get-go.
Yep.
And I was like, this is actually perfect because I need to see what's going on with the mod. Like, I hate when mods require you to go invest a ton of time having to read and watch a bunch of videos, and I knew mine was going to be guilty of that because there was so much to the systems, but I tried to make it as intuitive as possible, and I knew it. And then like after watching a couple episodes of the channel, I was like, okay, there are a lot of things in here that are not intuitive at all and that are kind of annoying, and because you were one of the few people out there who stuck to you were never great, and this is one of those YouTube things of you were never religious with your schedule, but you were consistent enough to where I could get regular feedback to my patches. I latched onto your channel right away as one of my go-tos for development. So like a lot of the direct patch content, and I think I told you this at one point, but was directly related to watching you struggle through something. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's real. What a pain in the ass that is. That needs to be fixed.
I cannot tell you how chuffed I was when you told me, that you were watching all of my videos and that I was actually influencing the development. And then when you made that little, because you had a hand in the, I can't remember what the mod was called. It's the mod that allows you that gives you random settler names.
Oh yeah, I think it's immersive settlers. Maybe it was one.
Yeah.
I helped some author who put it together. I helped them with their scripting a little bit, and then I made a version for you. Yeah,
so we could have the names that I had made up for my settlers. I was over the moon. That was a big moment for me.
Well, and that was one of those things where I'm like, all right, well that was another one of those moments where I'm like, all right, this guy gets it. He's really engaging with the audience and letting them help name these characters and keeping this kind of like pseudo RP thing going on. And it was just like a lot of fun. So it was fun to be involved with. But yeah, watching you fumble through it was like great motivation to get me to straighten out the mod and make it easier. Because it was like, if this guy is going to commit a bunch of his free time to trying to make like a fun series, like make a story out of this, I don't want it to break for him. Like then I'll feel, I wasted somebody else's time. And that was that's kind of always my motivation that keeps me going on bug fixes is like, there's a lot of people who commit a lot of their time to this. If everything falls apart and breaks, then they're wasting their time, and it's my fault, and that's that doesn't feel good. I don't want to be instructed.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of a commodity we often forget about, huh? Time.
Yeah, time is super valuable, man. I never have enough of it. The damn stuff. If I could buy it, I would. But yeah. So watching you play Sim Settlements was fantastic, and I actually was when you said you were retiring the series. It was like it was like a little part of me died. I miss Ricky Summer.
The first, the second, or the third time?
Well, well, the other times you did it, you never made it like a definitive. It was that last season where you know what? I made it to. Did you make it to 100, or did you make it just shy of 100?
Oh, that's an excellent question. You might have been just shy. It might have been 90.
And then you're like, I think I'm going to do 100 episodes and then call it quits. And you did. And you made it, or you at least got like within 10 episodes you were. And that was a lot. That's a lot of hours because each one was probably 40 minutes of on screen of like video footage plus however much you cut out from crashing and whatnot. So the episodes got up there a little bit, because as you get further through the
game, and by the game I mean Sim Settlements, which is now its own game. You got to wait for the settlers to come in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank God for the settler spawn button. I don't remember who built that one, but I need to feature that in the in one of my vid things to remind people of that. Because especially if you're playing for an audience, like that button is magical. Because waiting for settlers is not fun. Or it requires you to like just do a bunch of silly stuff like sleep and then edit, and then you got to go through and cut all your footage up.
Yeah, but that doesn't always work.
Right. Yeah, there's no guarantee that you'll get one if you sleep.
Yeah, but you also need to consider that I've got terrible Bethesda luck. So if you can encounter a bug, I will.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been playing this for a long time because you were playing Fallout 4 even before Sim Settlements. Because like I didn't hear about the Raider King until you brought him back for a season of the Sim Settlement stuff. But apparently he has a life of his own through multiple games, including Fallout 4.
Did you ever see the Ask the Raider King series? It was just like a short, I think, 6 video. Yeah. That's probably the most fun I've ever had on YouTube.
Just doing silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seemed well. That's why it was like when when I decided that I was going to try and embrace this channel thing some more and use it as a, because to me, one of the things that I do with all this stuff, so like with YouTube or with just putting out videos or putting out tutorials or building out fancy mod pages, all of it is in service to making sure as many people find the mod as possible. And so, and that's why, again, I was like, all right, this guy knows how to like build up some branding, even in a YouTube channel. And so, like, to me, you were a great fit for the channel during the time that you had available.
And I appreciate your trust in me.
Well, and you got us off to the right foot, or off on the right foot. Did I say that right? Anyway, you got us off on the right foot. We've got a lot of great templates now and stuff, which is fantastic. Awesome. And you even did a bunch of stuff that I hadn't considered at all. Like, gave us like a color palette to follow and some fonts and stuff. So it was like, oh, okay. Well, these are some things I probably should have done a long time ago. So that's nice, and probably comes from years of you grinding away at it. But what was it? What was it that drew you to Sim Settlements in particular that made you do a series about it? Because you were one. I mean, I know like Kluga followed in your footsteps, but a couple of other YouTubers started series, but none of them took it to the level you did.
Yeah, I think they kind of did. They were more one-off showcase sort of things. From what I saw. Oh, sorry, just whacked the mic.
Yeah, I had
the Italian hands going at
it. Like Generic B started it, was doing it weekly for a while, and Wild was doing it like daily for a little while. But yeah, nobody took it and made it a like, I'm going to commit to this and put out an episode every 4 days.
I wonder why. Because it just seems, because that's sort of why I started. It just seemed like such a perfect fit, especially for what I did, because I've always done that sort of pseudo role play. In the early days I called it a let's role play, which made a lot of people very angry, but it's fine. I knew what it meant. It's kind of like I'm not in character necessarily, but we are making decisions, through the eyes of the character. Yeah. So I guess I was just mad burnt out on Fallout 4. I was like the cynicism that I think most of us feel towards Fallout 4 vanilla had well and truly set in. And the people just wanted more Fallout 4. And I was desperate for a way to just spice it up so I wasn't bored out of my skull. And then I found Sim Settlements. Now, I don't know, actually, when did Sim Settlements release officially?
2017. It was March, and I know this off the top of my head because we just put together, we just hit the 5 million download mark, which is freaking insane. And so I had to go dig up a bunch of old video footage for Luke to put together this awesome like tribute video, and it was fantastic. Like, man, March 2017. That's so long ago. That's over 2 years now. Wow,
I reckon it was within a month of release of Sim Settlements.
You were quick, like, because I was so excited to find anybody YouTubing it. I was like, because when I put it out, I didn't expect it to blow up. I was just like, I got my first mod that I put out for Fallout 4, Salvage Beacons, had a little bit of success. I was like, hey, if it does that again, fantastic. Like, that'd be fun. It'd be nice to know that there's a few tens of thousands of people playing it. Like, that would be exciting. And then to see people YouTubing about it, it was like, what?
And it was a perfect storm too, because I mentioned this before, but I'm just gonna listen. You need to understand just how much time I spent on this. Back in the New Vegas days, or New Vegas as I like to call it, the real-time settler mod was more than 50% of my total playtime in that game.
Now, you've got a lot of experience with that. So that's a mod I never played. How close is that actually to what ended up in Fallout 4? Or was it probably way more complex because mods tend to go way deeper than Bethesda does?
Well, yeah. I mean, you had to just you essentially dropped items that would would sprout up into the structures. So that was a nightmare, and of course nothing like what the construction ended up being. Right. But yeah, it was deeper than like the scope. It might not have achieved it, but the scope of it, what it was trying to do, was certainly deeper than what we got in Fallout 4. Sure. Fallout 4 was just give them food and set up power and like you're good to go. But this, I might be lying here. I might be remembering wrong. But I almost feel like there were certain levels of things as well, like maybe the settlers leveled or the structures level. There was some sort of progression within it. I can't quite remember what it was, but yeah, it was Bethesda. I don't know if they took direct inspiration from it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but it's like they took Real Time Settler and then just gutted all the complexities,
but smoothed out the actual building process.
Yeah.
Well, I like what they did just for the sense that we have a nice template to work from, because it definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because certain parts, like the UI is fairly easy to use, and like I'm still torn whether I think that 76 was an improvement or a downgrade from the Fallout 4 workshop system. Like some of the stuff they did to the actual interface of like finding items I really like, and I like the cloning tools and the little ghost thing that happens when you try and move stuff around so you can see where it was previously. But all the limitations they put in, it's like of where you have to have everything anchored to a piece of ground, and then it just makes it a big pain in the butt.
Oh yeah. After after using place, is it anywhere? Place anywhere?
Or place
scrap
everywhere,
everything and place anywhere. Place everywhere. Yeah. Okay. After using that, it's nah. Fallout 76,
it's hard
nah.
to go back.
But I also, I don't know too much about 76 because I jumped off that train early.
Yeah.
So you're
you got to hear a little bit of it from me when we had that web series going, and I was just like, I can't do it anymore. It's just not enough fun for me. Because like I'm not the type to like I don't mod just for the sake of modding. Just like I don't build YouTube videos just for the sake of building YouTube videos. Like they all have to have some purpose, and I have to get some sort of joy out of them. And like 76 just was like, it was a grind. Like I know there are a lot of people who love it now, people who are on it all the time. I get it. I'm sure it's a fun sandbox game, but man, just not my jam at all.
Yeah, and we can circle back to this because I know you want to talk more about modding to start off with, but that is exactly how I felt and feel about YouTube. But back on Sim Settlements, it was after spending so much time in Real Time Settler in New Vegas, I was like that. It was the perfect storm. I was beyond stoked to find that there was something similar and better for Fallout 4. So I mean that was the is the right word impetus? Is that the motivation, if you will, for trying it? And I figured, look, I'm late. It had already been released for a month. I figured no one's going to watch this. Right. So I'll give it a few videos and we'll see how we go. And the rest is history.
Yeah. No, it had quite a lot of viewers. Although it, like everything else on YouTube, again, and sorry to the audience who don't care about all of our YouTube talk. It's something it fascinates me. Is the drop off that happens? Like you get this huge burst, but that's anything. Like it seems to be. I just was watching this GDC talk about. God, I can't think of the game. I watched the whole thing. Because it's a game I've never played before. You'll know what it is. It's like a Diablo clone, but it's free to play, and it's been going on for like 10 years now.
Path of Exile.
Path of Exile. Thank you. About Path of Exile, about how they would see they were monitoring their user base and how it would spike up real high and then it would always settle back down. And that's kind of how like YouTube series tend to go. And I actually remember looking at your viewership because I was like, this will give me a picture about how much interest there is in some settlements, because I can see my download rates, and that's one side of things, but the actual people are so interested in it that they're willing to watch other people play it. Like that's a whole other interesting metric to look at. And I remember seeing you had a ton of viewership up front, and then it kind of slowly settled down. But still, I think even having if you have a few hundred people who are watching everything you're doing, that's for a lot of people. Like if you think about that in real life, like that would be like if you were like you're a musician, like if you were doing shows at local clubs and stuff, and every night you had a few hundred people come out to see you, that'd be pretty badass, right? Like
Jesus, I'd love that.
Right. So it's funny that we our metrics are all skewed because we're looking at these global numbers, and you look at the big people on PewDiePie or Mr. Beast, these guys who get 50 million views on every video they put up, and it's like then it makes your numbers feel tiny, but in reality, if you project those out into real people, then it's like, wow, these numbers are actually fantastic.
And I reckon that would be one of the pieces of advice that I give to someone just starting a channel, someone uh, just growing their channel, is think about that. You know, don't worry about, oh, I'm not as big as this guy, or, you know, compare your channel to that guy. Just think about if you took all your viewers and put them in a room, that's that many people that you are affecting somehow.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, that's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, I
Especially
agree.
then when you factor in the comments, and some of the comments are wild, you know, like you get people saying, I was having a really shit day, or school is trash and this series is helping me through it. And for every time that you feel down and go, this isn't getting anywhere, you get a comment like that, and it's all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot to be said about that, because I think this is just creation. I think you can get the same thing, the same satisfaction and same feeling if you look at anything like that. So whether it be, you know, like I can do that with modding, and I tell other people who are modding to do the same way as, and why I've been encouraging people. I mean, you helped me develop out the Let's Play series of doing that endorsement time thing of like, go give those props and comments to the creators, because like that little bit of fuel could be the difference between somebody quitting or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And like it's but those, looking at the numbers like that definitely changes the pace of things. But it's shocking to me when we figured out that we hit 5 million downloads for Sim Settlements, on the opposite side of that thing of like how staggering a number like that is, and it's just not real. Like I can imagine you know, a few hundred people in a room watching a video, like that makes sense to me, but imagining 5 million people playing anything at the same time is just like, nope, it's too much.
That's incredible.
I'm
That's ridiculous.
freaking blown away by it. And it's
have you been able to, can you work out like what percentage of total Fallout 4 players that is?
No, I'm not sure. In fact, I reached out to Bethesda to ask for more information, because I just wanted to find out what the unique user count is. Because one of the things, that number is definitely inflated because I patch all the time. But like even on Nexus, we have almost 700,000 unique users. So it's like, all right, well, if we figure that's about 30% of the users are unique on Nexus. If we translate that over, that still means we have like 1.5 million unique users, which is just freaking insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it feels unbelievable. But I don't want this to become about that. It's something we just learned recently, so it's on my mind. And it's in the same vein of talking about that idea of this audience reach, and like the YouTube thing is, I don't know. It's so bizarre, because like you can see these people, like if you go try and research how to get good at it, or Twitch, same thing. Like a lot of the people who are good at it will give you all these tips and stuff, and I don't know that all of them are accurate. And this is why I was trying to say to you, don't give yourself such a hard time. But I think to some extent you do need to, like, you know, hold yourself accountable to some extent. But at the same time, you know, like some of the things I'll hear all the time are like, be consistent, like make sure, you know, you're releasing content on a regular schedule.
Absolutely.
And I can see the value in that, but I've also seen stories of people who, you know, grind day in, day out on a particular thing, make sure they hit videos every single day, and they, you know, are lucky, and they feel terrible because they sometimes are streaming for themselves in an empty room. So like I don't know that it's 100% on the person's shoulders. I think there is a lot. There's some element of, you know, there's a computer algorithm behind this. Is that?
And it's, you know, it's a whole bunch of different things. Just like everything in life, it's balance. Sure. But I think consistency is huge. Consistency plus time. It's not guaranteed, but it'll often equal success.
I would add one more to that. I would say consistency plus time plus passion. So I think like what you found, you burned yourself out on those games. I think had you either found a way to get joy out of it in some other way, you know, by like coming up with more creative playthroughs or doing more audience interaction or whatever it be, or doing what you ultimately ended up doing sooner and more intentionally, of jumping between the games that interest you and then let people follow your personality as opposed to following the game. That I think also is helpful, and I think that goes not just for YouTube. I think that goes for, I think it goes for anything with an audience. I think that like the key is likely to build up the audience in the person, especially if it's a singleton. I guess in a team sense or something, that maybe it does need to be the property. But I think like if you're trying to, I think it's more about having people along for your journey more than with a
Yeah.
thing you're
I
messing
don't
with.
know though, and I'm just gonna make a quick point, and then jump off from what you just said.
Okay.
But I think more and more I'm noticing that all creative pursuits and all the creative industries are much more similar than we might think.
Okay. I'll agree with
Music
that.
and YouTube, there are so many, like you can apply like the best practices for success on YouTube. You can apply that to music and it'll fit perfectly. Yeah, you have to translate a little bit here and there,
Sure.
but I think the basic premise is very similar. And on the subject of a whole team, I reckon more and more I'm seeing like development studios as entities become almost rock stars.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that because I would like religiously purchase anything that Bethesda puts out. Even after
There you go.
76, I'm still like the next game they put out and probably the next two games I'll probably buy with, sight unseen. Like I'll just be like
Yeah.
immediate pre-order as soon as it's available. And I
Yeah.
mean Bethesda Game Studios, not necessarily the larger studio. Like I have skipped a lot
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
other
yeah.
titles. Like I didn't play Rage. I'm not into Evil Within or any of that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah.
So I would.
You know,
and I
I've-
used to be that way with Blizzard. I used to pick up everything they put
okay.
out, but not anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have time.
I'm the exact opposite with Blizzard, as you well know. But yeah, I'm not quite on. Like I don't buy things without checking out if I'm gonna like them first. Like you listen, I've got this just very weird. We shouldn't really talk about it too much. Fascination with maces, as in the medieval weapon.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen that.
So yeah, I'm like Mordhau. Have you heard of Mordhau?
I
It's
have. I
currently-
watched some videos of it. It looks very amusing. Especially,
Yeah, yeah.
my favorite I've seen so far are troll videos where people mess with their own
Right.
teams. Oh my god, it's
I
so
gotcha.
fun to watch.
Yeah. So I'm like, I got this sudden urge. As soon as I found out that it had customization, I'm like, that's it. Mordhau, buddy. I'm going to go in with a mace. I'm going to have the grandest time. Luckily, I checked out some gameplay footage first because I don't think it's for me at all. But yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who'll just buy something based off of who makes it or whatever. But I have noticed that I will absolutely give the time of day to certain developers and even publishers. Like anything that Paradox touches, I'll give it a look because I
What are some
know
of its
that I
titles that's
like.
not jump? I'm not recalling that company.
So, oh god, now I'm forgetting. So just generally like grand strategy kind of stuff, niche strategy sort of thing. So BattleTech, Surviving Mars, I think they published. City Skylines,
Ah,
So
okay, City Skylines. Yeah, that would be that.
yeah.
That would
So
have been the
like,
one
I
sitting
guess
in
what you'd
first.
call what people are calling triple I,
Big
Uh,
indie, big fancy indie.
triple I games, yeah, but
Yeah.
all strategy and stuff that you can play for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
That's my jam.
Well, that explains why you were drawn to Sim Settlements then as well. 'Cause
That's
kinda
right.
Kind of what we were going for there is what I was going for
Exactly.
initially, and now the team's going for is this way to draw out the settlement gameplay into dozens and dozens of hours to build out. In fact, if you go for building the whole Commonwealth, it'd take you probably hundreds of hours to build them all out, unless you use the city plans, and then you could just do it in a few minutes. But that's not how it
Until
was
the
originally.
engine breaks.
Till the engine breaks. Yeah, that's how we go. That's my current mission in my playthrough. Is I'm just gonna keep pushing until I break the game and it just crashes every time I
Yeah.
arrive at my settlement.
Yeah.
So we'll see what
Fantastic.
happens. And I'll have. I've been trying to keep like an archive of like one of my save files from every week, so that way I can go back and try and figure out where everything fell apart, and it'll give me some idea.
Yeah.
Of the engine limitations, so that'll be interesting to do. Interesting little experiment that comes out of that. But I definitely agree with that idea that you said of that good practices in music and YouTube and stuff. I think that extends to just about any creative activity. I think
Yeah, I agree.
I think just a combination of having some discipline, some passion, and some what was the third thing we said? Like some reliable times that you do these things. I think that combining, and I guess that is kind of discipline, but like just basically like pursuing it like that and some sort of balance. I think eventually you'll find success as long as you're actually. I think part of it is And this is one of the benefits of things like YouTube, or putting your stuff out there publicly, is that if you use the audience feedback, you can make sure you're actually improving. Because if you just sit in your room and do this, you might go down some weird spiral that nobody wanted, and where you're not, it's that perfect practice makes perfect thing. Like doing it publicly, the nice thing is you get kind of real time feedback, and obviously some of the feedback is garbage, and the person is just wrong, and there's probably a certain amount of art in figuring out which feedback you should listen to and which you shouldn't. But yeah, it seems to me that any creative endeavor, if you want success in it, it's just put in the hours and make sure you stay passionate about it. Don't let yourself burn out.
That's right.
It.
Yeah. That's consistency is currently my main focus. I think that's, passion and burning out aside, I think where I failed in the past has definitely been consistency. So right now I'm streaming a lot more on Twitch, and I'm real proud of myself. I haven't missed a day.
Nice. It can be tough. I remember when we first. So one of the things you guys might not know is Rick was the one handling pretty much all of the social media stuff for Sim Settlements, because I have just I've got myself stretched so thin it's ridiculous. And so you may have noticed that most of the social media posts have stopped or have gone down to one a week. And I remember saying to you early on, we have to be consistent in this, otherwise it's what's the point if you don't follow through on it?
Yeah.
And then of course I dropped the ball on that because I didn't realize how much I'd been leaning on you for that. But anyway, I see how hard it is to keep up with that stuff, to be consistent and whatnot. It takes a lot of discipline, and you've got to really hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and I know on your end, it must be insane, right? So trying to make this mod, develop it, test it, then also get the word out. Your brain must be exploding, No wonder you need someone to help you with video.
Yeah,
I understand. It's it's the same thing with me with music. It's for the longest time, I felt like I got so caught up in the loop of trying to market my music that I just wasn't making any music. And then I realized, what the shit am I trying to market?
Right. Oh yeah, I can see why. It's the success begets success in a sense, because once you get to a point where you can start involving other people and letting them take over a whole section of this, because there's so many ways you could break this down and so many ways you can enhance it. I could easily come up with ways to full-time market Sim Settlements, even though it's an unpaid mod. There's just so many things we could do to encourage people to use it and grow it, but it's that's going to take somebody 40 hours a week to do what I have in my head. And I could see the same thing happening with music, even on a small scale. You're not even talking about trying to sell records or anything necessarily. You're just trying to do your thing, indie. I bet there's enough stuff that could be done marketing wise to encourage people to listen to your music that it could take somebody's full-time job to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's daunting.
It's also a little fun though. That stuff. It's I find all aspects of the creation on this. There are certain. Well, I guess I shouldn't say all aspects. There are definitely some I'm not a fan of. I get bored of. I get really bored designing mod pages. Usually.
Okay.
I mean it's the equivalent of the album cover, kind of it's that last step. And maybe it's not it depends on who you are. I think some people probably have an album cover in their head earlier than what I would do if I was doing music. But to me, that's the last thing. It's all right, well, this is the packaging before I can ship it out the door. But really, in my head, I'm just I'm done. I'm ready to get feedback, ready to get it out there. That stuff I don't
I'm sad to say it is the last thing for me, where it really shouldn't be. I don't disagree that I actually like the vast majority of all the elements involved. YouTube, music, whatever. It's just when you have to do all of them by a deadline and you have to do them well, that's where it gets savage,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where people get to burnout too.
Yes.
When they're one man showing and trying to do all this stuff, and they're trying to compete on a stage with people who have giant teams. You look at somebody who's got multi-million views of every one of their videos, talking it and framing it within YouTube, so that's where we started, and that we both can talk as a common reference point. The biggest channels, they have a whole production company that does that. They intentionally make it look like it's just a guy in his living room, but so many of them have shown how many people they actually have working on these, of like that they've got,
yeah.
they've got multiple editors. They've usually got some of them. I know like I'm pretty sure PewDiePie actually films still in like his attic or wherever the room is. But I'm just so out of this with these young people and their channels. I have no idea.
Damn kids.
What's going. But I've seen some like Linus Tech Tips. Like his is like they've built a fake house in a warehouse and like do all their filming in there, and it's like all this high level production thing. And it's like So like if you're trying to compete with those channels as one person, you're gonna have to put in crazy hours, and you're likely to burn out if you don't come up with a good. I don't know, some good shortcuts or what. I don't know what the solution is there to try and or you just have to be smart and not try and compete at that level and just kind of pace yourself, I guess, and just do high quality stuff a little slower.
It's that old saying or that old concept. You want to be the big fish in the small pond, not the small fish in the big pond. So I guess what you'd do there is you'd find your own niche, gimmick, for lack of a better word. And then you're not competing with the big guys. You're creating your own league, I guess.
Sure.
That's the dream.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, obviously. But I think that's where there's a couple of ways to do that. I think one is cult of personality. If you've got a good personality, people are into you. They'll just follow you and see what you're doing, and you'll slowly, and then they'll tell their friends about it. And I think another way of that is upsetting the norm. So like standing out so different, and I think one of the ways it's easier to do this now in general is just with quality, is that there's so much there's so much content out there on every field, in music, there's so much stuff on YouTube, there's so many games out there, and so much of it is complete and utter trash. And so like one of the ways you can stand out, I think, is to just deliver top tier quality within your space. And even if you have to go a little slower, if your stuff is standing out above people, I think that can build up a following. I mean, look at
the only hurdle with that is it's hard to market quality personality. If we use a YouTube example, it's not like you can put in the video title, "This is the best quality video on this subject."
But I think the thing there is patience, right? It's like it's kind of a slow burn. As long as you keep putting out the consistent quality over a long period of time, you'll build up a little following, and they can retreat to you when they get burned out by the larger creators who are putting out shoddy work. I think we're seeing that in a big way in the games industry with just how much everybody's turning on all the AAA studios because they're just releasing garbage.
Oh, huge.
Like
where was the last good AAA game? Now that I say that, there were probably quite a few.
There have been some good ones, but to be honest with you, I've been so out of the loop gaming the last 2 years of actual playing. Like I just haven't had the time. Because like you said, like it takes all these full-time jobs that you have to do yourself if you want to create content, promote it, polish it up, bug hunt it, etc. Like there's just so much that goes into it. I had to cut something, so it was like, all right, well, I'm happy to create. Like that scratches the same. Like that to me is more satisfying than relaxing and playing a game anyway. So I'm happy with that.
And if you just happen to be one of these poor saps that like RPGs or just generally deep, long games, well, good luck, buddy.
Right. That's that. I've actually found myself craving playing through, and I've bought several, and I've mentioned this several times on this podcast, that I have a stack of, like, I bought all of the PlayStation exclusives that were really highly rated, and most of them are like single player narrative story, like God of War, the new God of War, and I bought the remastered Last of Us, and like stuff like that, where they're just kind of story games. You just kick through them once and then you're done. I'm getting an urge to play that just because I have so little time anymore. So like the idea of these giant open world or sandbox RPGs where you get 500 hours out of them, it's like at the pace I play games, that would take me 5 years to get through play through, like to try and go like now to play Witcher 3, like I can't even fathom where I would find the time to finish that game.
That's streaming for me, every few months I get a burning urge to play The Witcher 3 again. It's become one of my favorite games of all time. I think I wouldn't have said, like, first time I played through it, I wouldn't have said that, but now on reflection, absolutely. So that's what streaming is for me. It's an excuse to play stuff I like and I'm looking forward to and have always been interested in but missed on the regular. And it's
Sure.
working.
Yeah, the streaming side of it is very interesting of doing that in real time. Like I've never, I don't know, I haven't been able to get myself to do it. I think it's something I feel like I can't keep up, I guess, with the streaming game. Like it seems, I don't know, something about it. Like I guess it's when I'm exploring a new game, and I'm kind of experimenting with the same style when I'm doing my Let's Play now of like I'm talking through it the whole time. I just don't know if I'm ready to do that in front of a live audience because I'm sure there's something in my brain that doesn't mesh with the public world, and I'm gonna spit it out, and then I'm gonna get in trouble. Whereas if I'm doing it on edited videos, we can just snip that. I shouldn't have said that.
I don't know. I guess
that's actively on my mind of fear. I was just like the whole idea of stream of thoughting live just scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Any hot button issue that I actually have an opinion on, besides beyond live and let live, I just don't touch.
Sure.
Ever.
Oh, that's fair. But yeah, I could see I mean, that's kind of what I did with the Let's Play was to try and make myself make some time to play. Because if I could see, if I went too long without actually playing a game, I'd probably get out of touch with what people are actually wanting, and then be building games nobody wants to play. And two is I could see myself starting to get jaded and being like, why am I spending my time doing something like this that I don't even like anymore? You know what I mean? So it was like that.
Yeah. You got to experience the fruits of your labor.
Right. Absolutely. But even beyond that of like playing other people's games would be, I could see the nice thing about doing something like streaming or putting out Let's Plays is you almost get to feel like you're creating at the same time as you're playing because you're.
Yes.
Because when you're entertaining others, even if it's just in real time and no one goes back and watches it, it feels like a form of creation. There's something about that.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially with the well, I mean, you've got an editor, but when I was doing I've always done my own editing, but even that, doing interesting stuff with that, it did the whole YouTube game. It was fascinating and engaging because it's like cracking a puzzle.
Sure.
With each new topic you come up with, what's the puzzle here? How do I get people to click on it? That's interesting. Yeah. But also, even though, listen, I'm not gonna blow smoke up my own ass here. It's not like the most creative thing you can do, but it satisfied my creative itch there. Sure. So yeah, I mean that was good, and I often do miss it. But then I say, hey Rick, buddy, don't be an idiot.
Well, there's so many.
Don't get back into it.
I mean, that's one of those things that the difference between the live streaming versus the editing, and the reason that you had to back off on my channel was that, and I learned very quickly how many hours you put in, is that doing all those edits and making all that fun is fun and it's creative and it's cool to try and do, but it might take, like, so people understand this, to do the editing of one of those Let's Plays, depending on how crazy, like if you talk about one of mine with how much, sometimes I would have like 2 hours of footage and we just needed to pull out the interesting bits, like that could take you, first of all, even if you were a wizard and you could just like cut things instantly and recognize the pieces and do it all in real time, minimum 2 hours to process. But in reality, you watch through it several times, pull out a chunk and then rewatch that chunk several times, cut it perfectly. Like you're talking like a 45-minute video could take 10 hours to edit. Whereas streaming, it's literally however much time you're going to play. And, there's some front-loaded time of, you set up your channel thing and you set up your little emotes and stuff and everything like that. That's like a one-shot deal. And then after that, maybe you add some extra sound effects or whatever once in a while. So it's just a lot less time consuming to do. So I can see
absolutely
the draw there over doing the edited YouTube content.
Yeah, for sure. And that stuff's kind of fun for me. Because like a meme will rise in chat and it's like, oh, I need to make an emote out of this, or I need a soundboard element or a graphic that pops up. So it's it's fun. It's reactionary and it's fun to do. But yeah, the YouTube stuff, especially the Let's Play like daily, for the longest time, for a few years, I was doing daily videos. And that was ridiculous. I was on, the only reason I got through it is because it was like, I was on a treadmill, it was just, I can't stop.
Sure.
But I was just so burnt out that I'm like, no, the videos, I'm just like trying to purify just trash water over and over again. It's not working. Um, a little Commonwealth reference there for you. How you doing?
Well, I think one of the ways to put this all
yeah,
into perspective for people is I think a lot of people think that YouTube pays well. That's
No, yeah.
right.
No, that really shocked. And I don't want to get too deep into this because it can turn into, or it can come across as a poor me scenario.
Right.
Just
No.
way
I'm trying
too
to
easily.
I'm
but
just trying to shed light on it as a just put facts
yeah,
on
absolutely.
it. Like not
Yeah,
no
I would
judgment
get
here or anything, but
when I pulled back on the daily videos, I don't think I've uploaded a video in a month. Now, just to be clear, I'm not done with YouTube. I've just only putting stuff up when I really think it's going to be quality,
right.
and I'm really interested in the topic. But when I pulled back on the daily videos, I actually had regular viewers saying like, "Hey, what's going on, buddy? YouTube not paying well for you?" And
Yeah.
I learned that they were under the legitimate impression that YouTube was my full-time job. I was at 17,000 subscribers, and they thought that was my full-time job.
Yeah, no, it's
Wow.
yeah, it's but that's the thing is that even to continue to grow from that point, you do have to
Yeah.
treat it like a full-time job. Like the amount of
Yeah,
hours
yeah.
it would have taken you to release daily videos and continue to grow, it would have required 8 hours a day or more, and you get basically you basically make less than far like I would say less than 1/4 of minimum wage in any country. Like it's so
Much
it's such
less.
a tiny right. It's such an in some significant amount. Like the amount of money we bring in on the channel for on my YouTube channel, like it wouldn't pay for. I'm trying to think of what it could actually pay for. It's so I'm trying not to name the numbers, but it's such an insignificant amount that it doesn't even matter really. But it's like it's enough to where I'm not going to turn off the ads because like we do have random expenses. But it's like there's no like even I have almost 40,000 subscribers. Most of my vids get to like depending on the vid. I mean like the average one probably gets about 2,500 views, which is more than a lot of people on YouTube. Like I'm probably above the median. And the money is just it's useless. Like it's not there's no way anyone can survive off of that. So like then fortunately it doesn't require our team of myself and Galdevent and Luke to put in we're not putting in 8 hours a day or anything. Like fortunately it's I think between we're probably each putting in 8 hours a week or something. And so like it's not a huge deal, but still like the idea that there are people like you who are doing that and grinding it out, it can't be for money. It just can't be. Like if that's your goal, you're gonna want to kill yourself after so long because it's such because on that metric you're failing so horrifically.
Oh yeah, and that's why it was never really about that. Like it never was about money. Of course, you have the dream of
sure,
I'm gonna blow up, and this is gonna be my full-time income. It never was about money, but it is easy to fall into the trap of, you want to keep that growth going, which
but
is there's nothing wrong with that. You do need to keep the growth going, but
you do need to keep the growth
you
going.
can't
And even
you
if
can't
you're
dwell
not
on
focusing on money, eventually it comes to a point in your life where it's like, all right, I only have so many hours a week that I have to make enough money to survive on. Can I even physically? Can I continue to do this? Is it physically possible for me to do this without starving? Like literally, like or having to get kicked out of my home. Like there's a legit problem there of like it eventually gets to a point of like, okay, I can't possibly keep this up and progress in real life. Like we all want to see some progress there too of
Absolutely.
like slowly because like we all go through the period in after school days where we're trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with life. And we can learn to get by on a very small amount of money, and use credit card debt once in a while. But eventually, you need to get out of that and be in a point where you can live at least so that you're not afraid of where your next meal is coming from. So like and if you're spending 8 hours a day trying to grow something, and eventually you do have to look at that and be like, all right, I could take that 8 hours a day and apply it to something else that might actually progress because this is not going anywhere. Like I don't know what the number is. I don't know how long you grind, because it seems to me that most of the people, like in YouTube in particular, people who have made it, all were able to do that grind while they were living at home. Because like most of them, it seems to me that most of the people who are the high, and I know it's not a blanket statement, but a lot of the people who are the big numbers on YouTube. All have been doing this since YouTube was incepted, and at the time they were teenagers, and now they're like in their 30s, so it looks like, oh, these are adults doing this. It's like, well, no, they grew it when they were living in their mother's basement. So like, that's right. Not a realistic approach for everybody.
I started around a similar time. I started in 2011.
Okay.
So if I just stuck on that Skyrim train, look, just imagine where I could have been now.
Sorry, I'm not trying to make you regret your life decisions here. I'm just trying to.
No.
I'm really, like, to me, this talking about this stuff on the podcast like this is, I'm hoping that people who are pursuing these things, like whether it's normally I'm talking about pursuing YouTube or something, can pick up some useful tidbits somewhere here and like learn from my mistakes, I guess, or learn from things I've learned. That's kind of the hope there. So that's why I like talking about this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope anyone who's listening to this who is currently on the YouTube grind or is thinking about starting a channel, don't neglect your mental health. Okay.
Jesus, yeah, right?
Because right now I'm in a much better place with, Twitch and YouTube and everything. I gotta say, it's a fantastic feeling. I'm not, in the grind worrying about, under the delusion that, hey, next week's video, that's going to be the big one. And then I'm going full time, Yeah. It's just stuff goes out when it's good quality and when I have something to say. Twitch is really just, I'm not even worried about growth. Twitch is just, I want to play The Witcher 3 right now, and I want to finally beat Dark Souls 3 because I never have. And that's an excuse for me to do it. Yeah. That's all it is, and it's fun. And I get to talk to some people and make some memes as we do it. And
Twitch to
is this going to lead to success? Maybe, but if it doesn't, I don't care.
Right. Twitch to me feels like, it reminds me of two things. One is college. Reminds me of hanging out with my buddies in college. Like, you get this like crew going. You end up with inside jokes, which are basically memes. Like, they're memes within your little group. And then it also reminds me of my days in MMOs, because like the game is really just a background activity. It's just a chance for you to hang out and BS with each other. The difference in Twitch here is just it's one person doing all the talking and everybody else is interacting in more interesting ways. Whether it be like triggering emotes on screen or sound effects or whatever, or just typing in chat. So it like has a mix of those two things going on. So I could see the fun in that, whether or not you're successful. It's just kind of like, as long as you get a little crew in there so that you're not doing it alone, it's got to be great.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to have my handful of regulars who always show up, and I really appreciate them. I don't know if any of them will be watching this, but if you are, I really appreciate you always showing up every week. It's fantastic, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, every once in a while I poke my head into your or Kluga's streams, and I see some of the same names over and over again every week, and it's like, you guys, and like then I can tell like the inside jokes that are flying around. I'm like, oh, these guys have a great little rapport going on. Like, this seems like a lot of fun. And then I'll just sit in the background and creep on you guys. So.
Well, now I know. I'll look out for you. Make me feel self-conscious.
So, Captain Coots caught on to me doing that, and so he set up his bot to trigger whenever I was in his channel. So then it would be like, it would make a declaration like, "All hail the king" or something. I don't remember what it said, but
that's incredible.
He started catching me, and then so I had to create a ghost account to creep on him when I want to.
Don't tell him.
I actually Twitch to me is awesome for so I not only do I spend a lot of time modding, which is a very solo activity, but I also work from home, so I spend a lot of time in a room by myself surrounded by computers, and like Twitch ends up being an awesome way to give me a similar feel to like when I used to work in an office. So it was like there were just people talking in the vicinity, and it was there's a little bit of comfort to that, of like knowing you're not alone all the time. And Twitch feels that's the role Twitch fills for me often. It's just like, it's just nice to have somebody else in the room once in a while when you're because you try going a week straight without talking to more than, I'll talk to my wife every day, but there are some weeks I'll find like, wow, I haven't talked to another human. Like, this feels really bizarre, and like that you can feel the loneliness creep in, and it's like, and then so like having something like Twitch just to feel the room is nice.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. When I was younger, before Twitch or before I latched onto Twitch or YouTube, yeah, I always had to have the TV on. Even doesn't matter what it
Sure.
was, even if it was just absolute trash, had to be on,
Yeah.
because otherwise the room would feel too empty. But yeah, I get that. I never go a whole week not talking to anyone, not anymore. Um,
I
but
don't
it's
enjoy that. It's not a choice. It's literally like I have
yeah,
so
yeah.
many
No, I understand.
projects going on that it's like if I make time to go do other stuff, then these things won't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but up until a couple months ago, it was possible that I would go a whole week without talking to anyone but primary school children. Just for context, I do teach music to primary school children.
so that's not a creep thing.
That's not a creepy thing, and that is almost as bad as not talking to anyone.
Right. Actually, it might be worse because
It
I've
might
already
be
found
worse.
this. Some people might have noticed in my Let's Plays, I've started saying weird things occasionally. Like I say bye-bye to people as I blow their heads off. And that's
Yeah.
from my son saying bye-bye,
Yeah.
bye-bye, hello, bye-bye. So, like, I think talking to children too long, you can start to babyify your speech.
I suppose it's a much different relationship between me and my students and you and your kids,
absolutely.
of course.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
you're using a totally different vernacular when you talk to children
Yeah.
than when you
Yeah.
talk
I
to
guess-
other adults and friends. So, like, if you just found, if you spent like a month only talking to your students, you might start baby talking, or not baby talking, but like
Yeah.
dumbing down your talk as you're talking to
Maybe.
friends or something, or on Twitch.
I'll tell you what would happen. I would stop swearing.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I'm surprised how easy it was to turn off the potty mouth. Because I was a little bit worried. I've become quite a sailor, and sometimes I feel kind of bad about that. But when I started teaching again, I'm like, oh shit, how am I going to get through these days without dropping the F-bomb?
Right.
And I was just able to do it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. What swearing's a
Yeah.
funny thing because I used to swear all the time. Like it was just part of the lingo. Like it was to the point where occasionally I'd find myself dropping an F-bomb every fourth word, and
Yeah.
it was brought up to my attention in a conversation with somebody. I can't remember who I had this conversation with. It might have been multiple people that it really solidified it for me. It was like it has two problems. One is you eventually numb the people around you to those words so that they don't mean anything anymore. And then two is that when you do need to use them in the actual context that they're supposed to be used, in the sense to like enunciate your speech and show people you're upset, they don't have that power anymore. And like it's like I kind of want the power back on those words, and it's nice to have that back. So like I try and curse infrequently just for that. Just then when I do pull them out, then people will give me that double take of like, oh, all right, he must actually be pissed.
Yeah, they stop being special,
Right.
and they need to be special.
They do. Like and I think part of it was like the rebellion of youth of like you spend so much of your youth being told you can't say these words that then once no one tells you can't anymore, then you're like, all right, I'm going to use these all the time. And then over time, then eventually it's just like, all right, I guess I overdid that.
Yeah, I think I've had a delayed rebellious period.
Okay.
So all through my teens and early 20s, toe the line, do what you got to do, get by, But now I'm a cynical old man who's gone through his quarter life crisis. So now, fuck it. Add in some bleeps there,
Right,
Mr. Editor.
All right. Well, so far I've been editing my own podcasts, and I don't bother with the bleeps. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I feel so far I have had the algorithm. I barely care about the algorithm. I only care about like there are some videos I care about the cursing in. Like I try not to put it in stuff like trailers and things where I feel people might be sharing them, to where it's like I don't want people to share that, and then they're like. A great example, sharing a trailer, or like for example the video we just put out to celebrate some settlements success lately. Originally it had a line from one of our characters that was cursing, and I was like, well, then people are going to be less inclined to share it, and like spread the word, because then because for example on Twitter or Facebook, even though it might be fine for some people to share that, if there's like a bunch of cursing in it, well, most people have random like family members, like a nephew or a niece or kids or whatever. Like it's like they don't want to see that, and like so then all of a sudden that eliminates
Plus,
it.
my impression is that a large amount of the Fallout and just Bethesda game player base, my impression is that they're very young.
Yeah, I think it's actually a broad range. Like if I looked at my, if we looked at the YouTube channel analytics to look at ages, I would say like most of my subscribers are in their 20s and 30s, which makes sense to me. But I'm sure there's a fair number of young people. But just the fact, I think there's even beyond that. Even if you assume that none of my viewers are kids, those people, my viewers, they will have kids who are friends with them in social media.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's the only time I tend to care. But like something like this, I don't bother bleeping out when like I try not to curse just because I'm just trying to keep myself in the habit of not doing it. Both because I don't want my kid to be cursing at school and then being like the black sheep right away. But also for the other reason I mentioned of just like it's nice to take back the power of those words. But I don't bleep other people because I don't think that this type of content really is going to get shared on social media. And even if it did, it tends to be like you have to be so committed to listen. Like for example. Like I think you've maybe cursed twice in this hour. Anybody who's along,
that's pretty good for me,
right? I think anybody who's along this far into the ride, they don't care. They're engaged enough to where an F-bomb isn't gonna affect them in any way. So, so I don't bother bleeping them out. But that's.
But you mentioned something interesting that I think we could go on a little tangent about. Not caring about the algorithm. Yeah. I think a lot of people have. In my opinion, incorrect, over puffed up view of the algorithm. Like it's some kind of secret lock, secret source that you can crack. An example is I watched back when I was playing Apex Legends for just 2 months there. Mm-hmm. I looked up a video of like strategies for one of the characters. And it was a click, not a click. I don't want to use the word clickbait, but you know what I mean when I say that. Yeah. It was a sensationalized title. It was a good title, right? And at the start of the video, the guy said, sorry for the title. I'm just trying to hack YouTube or some sort of word like that. He might use the word hack or something else. And in the comments, people were like, wow, that's smart. How is he hacking YouTube like that? And they took it literally almost, right? Right. And I'm like, guys, it's just a good title. That's all it is. It's not like the words he's using somehow trigger words that the algorithm goes, shit, we must post this video everywhere. It's not like that. It's just most of it is just common sense.
Yeah, I think it's often just like you're talking about popular topics and like and whatnot. I guess when I mention algorithm, I'm more talking about getting things not only demonetized but also
demonetization. Yeah,
demonetization sucks. I mean, again, the numbers are so small it doesn't really matter that much. But it's just like it seems like a good habit to be in. Because like I said, we can take this ad money and reinvest it, so that's nice. But the real problem is the fact that YouTube doesn't automatically notify people of their even their subscribers. So like even people who are subscribed who might be interested in the channel, they can get less notification if the video doesn't satisfy the arbitrary criteria of the algorithm, which is very bizarre. But I get why they had to do it, because if you think about how many channels most of us are subscribed to that we don't watch anymore. And like if you did get all those notifications, how messy it would be and how hard it would be for anything new to creep in. So like if my front page on YouTube was just all the people I subscribed to and nothing new, I would never find anything new because I can't even get through all the content I'm subscribed to. So I kind of get why they did that. But it does
and there's a little bit of a go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say it does mean that there is a to even reach your own viewers, you are a little at the mercy of this machine learning algorithm. So
and there's a little bit of a promotion arms race going on, the way I see it. So I don't really watch the really big Let's Players. In fact, I watch very few Let's Players at all these days. But the bulk of my YouTube time was spent with Northern Lion and all his affiliated YouTuber friends, Dan Giesling, those sort of guys. So they're not huge channels, but they're putting out daily videos, and it's mostly low to no editing let's play. So that's how they're able to just pump it out.
Right.
And with those sort of channels, they've started due to the possibly the algorithm changes and demonetization, their views have dropped quite drastically from like a year ago. So now, from putting out 1-2 videos a day, some of them are up to 4 videos a day. I've seen some people doing 8 videos a day of let's play content. That's insane. Now, just imagine how YouTube views that. Now, it's in response to the changes YouTube have made, but then in response to, that countermeasure, these guys putting out up to 8 videos a day, YouTube's going to go, well, no, we don't want to flood people's sub boxes with, all these different channels, each with 8 videos a day. That's ridiculous.
Right.
So it's just this vicious cycle, I reckon, that's just going to get worse.
Well, I just watched a video explaining or at least attempting to, because the guy didn't have definitive data, but he just based on his own experience doing a YouTube channel. I can't remember the name of the guy's channel. I've seen random other videos that he does, and it was a very interesting video. But essentially, what he's come up with is that what's happened is that essentially the YouTubers chase the algorithm, and the algorithm chases the YouTubers, and it creates this cycle to where the algorithm essentially determines what people are watching, and that it's almost like it's out of control now, and that's why you will randomly see, and this has been a thing I've noticed a lot in the last couple of months, is like randomly a 2 or 3 year old video will just pop to the top of my feed for no reason, and then I'll watch it because it interests me, and I'll see a ton of comments like, who else was brought here by the algorithm, and it'll be like hundreds of likes on it from that day, and I'm like, oh my god, it's not just me, this is just happening all over the place, like it's
Skynet, man.
Yeah, really. And I don't know if anybody fully understands it, but it's a weird thing to have to try and chase down if you're trying to make a living on it. And I don't think, and like that's not something I'm trying to do. Like to me, the whole thing is here. All I care about is making sure that the thing I'm passionate about, which is making interesting gameplay, is making sure that reaches as many people as possible. And like YouTube is just one of the ways to do that. So it seems to be, to me, it's the most effective way to get out stuff, because it's I can polish the content up. I don't have to schedule myself too harsh. Like one of the things with like I think Let's Plays, I think they belong on Twitch. I think that makes more sense. That's just a better place for them, because you get to engage with your audience in real time. And like Let's Plays they seem to not want, just in their nature, don't want a ton of editing anyway. And so like at that point, it's just easier on you. It's better for your audience. And I think that's a better place for it. But for me, I can't commit to a real-time schedule. Like I can easily, like right now I have like everything to do with Sim Settlements. I have it scheduled out in 2-week blocks, and like I can work in that, because then there's lots of wiggle room. So I don't have to like I know I don't have to hard commit to like 1 p.m. every Tuesday. It's just like, I have to, like I have dates for these videos. Like it's every Thursday we're going to release our Let's Play at 8 p.m. But I have the whole week to get, I have the whole week to get that finished, as opposed to like, you can't, you know what I mean? And then you can schedule it. Whereas in Twitch, it's you have to be there in that moment. So YouTube for me is like a perfect thing to build up and promote content. And that's pretty much all I choose to do with this. But actually trying to make it as a YouTuber, it seems like you're setting yourself up for a pretty rough battle.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think part of it is also like YouTube gaming is going through just mad changes. Whether that's due to the algorithm, I'm not gonna algorithm shame or anything like that. But I just think the culture and the landscape is changing, and I think unless you've got an established Let's Play channel, I feel like there are always exceptions in everything in life. But I feel like trying to start a Let's Play channel now would be insane. Yeah, that you'd be shooting yourself in the foot. But yeah, so I agree. Twitch is a place for Let's Play stuff, which is why I've moved to it for that kind of stuff. And there is, sometimes there's something special, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. It's a certain je ne sais quoi, if you will, about the YouTube Let's Play, because I guess it's depending on the game. I guess especially if it's a long play strategy game or something, you can take your time and contemplate stuff, and it's just your thought process. Something nice about that. But
But that,
You
I
know,
think that's just
that's
playing
when I
for
say, hey,
that's
Rick.
more like playing for yourself more than because like I think that I mean, do you do long? Have you ever done that and put it up? Because that seems to me like if somebody put up like a game of Civilization on YouTube, there's no way in hell I want to watch that. That sounds like the worst thing ever to watch. Like somebody silently think over their decisions in a real played Civ game.
Not silently. What I mean is, what I just said was actually from the perspective of the viewer.
Okay.
So sometimes I say to myself, "Hey, it'd be kind of nice to have that, to make something like that."
Okay.
And I'm talking about like it's the people that do that sort of stuff actually never shut up, right? And I recognize when I play those sort of games, when I have played those sort of games on YouTube, I also never shut up because there's just space for you to talk forever and ever. There's no dialogue to sit and wait through, no cutscenes, no nothing, no loading screens going through doors. Bethesda games. So you can just nonstop just spout out nonsense, and it's kind of glorious.
It is a little soothing to do that. Like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it because when I play Bethesda game, all of my history playing Bethesda games, I go full on in on immersion. My goal is to forget about everything in the outside world. You know, sometimes I'll throw on headphones, kill the lights, and just like really like get into the game.
Ooh.
You know, yeah, gotta get those mood lighting. But just to really, you know, feel that you're in that game world. And like to me, then I don't want to talk because then if I'm talking, I'm likely talking about things that are in real life. My own voice is going to pull me out of it. But I've been enjoying it because I mean, obviously, I think everyone's figured out that I enjoy talking. Like sometimes
really,
too
I
much.
didn't get that. I didn't get that.
But yeah, I've actually taken to it more than I anticipated because I always assumed with Bethesda, because the way I always play Bethesda games is like I do it in total silence. I'm like, nobody's gonna want to watch me play this. It's gonna be horrible. So yeah, I can kind of see the draw there of like being able to just sit there in a silent room. You don't have to address anyone in particular like you do on Twitch, where you need to keep up with what's going on in your chat or people are going to get disengaged. You like you said, you just kind of stream of thought, whatever you feel like talking about. You just kind of go nuts.
Well, what I have found that I do when I have done that in the past, I'll either create characters to address. And not necessarily characters in the game. Like in one of my Sim Settlements seasons, I just kept talking to Gary. Like Gary was the butt of all jokes and the arsehole who was always criticizing me in the comments. Gary didn't exist, but I made him up. You know, sure. Sometimes I need someone to direct my my aggro to. But let me ask you something. Have you? Now I've lost the train of thought. That's right. Okay, we're back on the train, buddy. Okay, so now I know you don't really play games in your spare time, but in the odd time that you have, do you now feel a little itch to be like, hey, I'd love to share what I just did with the world? Do you get that?
Of like when I'm playing a game.
Yeah, but
no,
not recording it or anything.
Not
you don't
all.
Get that? Okay.
No, like when I played, so like the last game I played that I had a great time I can remember. Like I've played a handful of games for 20 minutes. Like I get people used to gift me a lot of Steam games. Not anymore, and I'm not asking for those. It's a waste to give them to me. And I would pop them open, install them, pop them open for a little bit because I was like, oh, that was a nice gift. I'll give it a go. And I just had so little time, and like if they didn't draw me in immediately, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something. I need to go back to creating. And the last one that drew me in enough to play was Frostpunk. Loved that game. I played through the whole main campaign. Fantastic game. I love their take on doing the circular thing. I love the steampunk theme. I love the frost, like everything about that. Like really, the art, it all called to me. It was really well done. It was a great game. But I never once wanted to talk about it, and I never once wanted anyone to be in the room with me. It was just a nice, relaxing experience. It happened to come out when I was on a trip visiting my father, so I didn't have all of my modding stuff with me anyway. So I was like, oh, this is too perfect. So I couldn't mod even if I wanted to at the time. Like my computer that I had with me, I could barely play Frostpunk on, much less try and load the damn creation kit. But I never wanted anybody to be in the room playing it. See,
I don't know if it's because I'm an insecure person that craves attention at all times, or it's because I've been ruined by a large chunk of my young adult life spent doing daily videos for YouTube.
Yeah.
But I get this feeling in the back of my head now whenever I'm playing a game without anyone watching. I go, Jesus, I just did something cool. I really wish I could put that up on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
And I never do, but it's that feeling's there, man, you know?
I will say once in a while I do have a moment that happens like off camera in Fallout 4 where like like the pieces come together, the physics hit just right, or like these particular two things crash together. I'm like, that was so hilarious. I wish I had the clip of that. But like other than that, yeah, I don't really feel that urge.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like I don't know there was somebody posted on our Discord recently, and I can't think of what it was called, but it was something from I watch a lot of GDC videos, the Game Developer Conference, and they just posted a bunch from May up on their YouTube channel, and they posted one recently, or somebody posted, and I don't know if it was an old one or a new one. I didn't check the date, but it was basically about they broke down. It was the company that does. God, what are those games? They did the Detroit Beyond Human, the Heavy Rain. What's that company called?
Cage.
Anyway, I believe it was that company that did that, because they seemed like they would be very into this. Maybe I'm wrong on this. I might be totally off on the company that did this, but or it might have been I'm mixing two videos together. Anyway, the point was the video was about the motivations of players, and that they broke it down into 16 categories. I think it was 12 or 16 categories of like what people's motivations are to game. And that different people have different aspirations in it. And I would imagine that, you know, what you just described about having that urge to have people watch you do it, that's probably fits in
well, when
there
you
somewhere.
say it like that.
No, I mean, I'm not. It's not to knock it. I don't think anybody's
No.
reasons to game are different. Like, for example, I know that for me,
just made it sound a little lewd. That's all.
Okay, yeah. He means voyeurs.
Yeah.
No, but like my motivation I discovered about myself for gaming was I always used it as a sense of achievement, and like that's why I don't do it much anymore, because now my sense of achievement comes from creating games.
I got you.
So like once I'd always been waiting for something like that to come out, because I could tell that was there. I talked to friends who would game for different reasons, but I never really verbalized it or figured out what the things were. So it was cool to see them take actual data and like actually put science to it to figure it out. And I was like, I had recognized a while ago that I definitely looked to video games to fill that creation void, because my work, the stuff I create for work, is very boring. It's like corporate software. It's not fulfilling in any way. It's like it pays the bills, and I'm good at it, and that's fine. But like it doesn't scratch that creative itch, and so like or even that sense of achievement. Whereas like games always would, and then now this does. But like I don't know what the motive. Like what would the like? Do you have any of that motivation when you play the game? Like do you get fulfillment from the games themselves in the sense of feeling like you achieved something? Like you're chasing that next level up, or chasing that next not necessarily, because like I was never drawn into like Xbox achievements or whatever the equivalent is on Windows, but like the achievement of like completing all the side quests, or the like personal, like I would come up with my own little missions in there. Do you find any of that?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm just trying to identify what my motivation would be after you've mentioned that, and I think I got two distinct motivations that are separated by two different genres of game. So with like just story-driven games, RPGs, whatever, escapism, as simple as that. I want to get lost in the story. I think I probably get the same satisfaction out of finishing The Witcher 3 and like watching a really gripping film. On the other hand, this may surprise you, but the most hours I've put into a game is not Skyrim. It is in fact Factorio.
Okay.
So with Factorio and games like that, it's the puzzle. Now, if you put me in front of like a puzzle game, like, I don't know, The Witness or something, or a more standard puzzle game, I'd probably be bored out of my skull. Okay. But that's like a real world reactive puzzle. It's, hey, here's a random map, figure it out.
Sure.
And you got your tools that are the same in every map, but the way you use them changes, and it's not just based on the map. You can say, hey, this run I'm gonna I'm gonna try a different strategy, and
Right.
I get some satisfaction out of that. It's like it's puzzle slash building.
Right. So it's almost like a toy box, but a toy box that
Yeah,
has a purpose.
yeah. I've never really been huge into unrestricted sandbox games. Like if you put me into creative mode Minecraft, I won't know what the shit to do. There's my
I'm
third
exactly the
bad
same
word,
way.
by the way.
Exactly the same way. That's I mean, this is the motivation
Yeah.
that made Sim Settlements the way it is. Is like I liked the
Yes.
building in Fallout. I love the look, like the artistic direction of Fallout 4 like speaks to me on so deep a level. It's ridiculous. I love the aesthetic of Fallout 4. In fact, I just got into an argument with Gambit in a podcast a couple of weeks ago about the realistic weapons being like
Yeah.
canon or not. And I
Yeah.
see the point that thanks to Obsidian, most real life weapons, modern weapons are canon and they do belong there. But Bethesda did something I love, which is they took all of the weapons and made them like silly 50s future versions, or like retro
Yes.
future versions of themselves, and they stuck to that aesthetic. And I love it. I love that. Like I think that's such an
Yeah.
improvement over the direction the previous games had gone with it, which was like starting to get toward more realistic modern weapons. So I love that art style. So then I loved the building, but it definitely got to a point once I realized that it had no bearing whatsoever on my character or the gameplay. Like I wanted it to affect the story or something. Like I wanted it to be, if you get all the settlements to a certain point, then like the story changes in the main game. That never happened. Once I realized that, then I was like, oh, I'm just playing Minecraft. And then I got
Yeah, exactly.
totally
And that's
disinterested.
I think we're getting at the heart of what is so gripping about sim settlements. At least for me, and
Okay.
initially, it was. I'm not. You know what? I'm not sure I ever really did any building in vanilla Fallout 4. What I enjoyed the most. This is gonna sound weird. What I enjoyed the most is the dress ups.
Okay.
Finding bits and pieces of armor. I love the new equipment armor system in Fallout 4. That's my absolute favorite part of vanilla Fallout 4.
Sure.
But beyond that, you get all the armor pieces, your character looks cool.
Yeah.
Now what, dude?
Right.
Settlements are boring. Sim Settlements comes along and, it uses that soulless sandbox and gives you some meaningful restrictions and some roleplay potential and some little bit of puzzle solving. And I was hooked.
Yeah.
90 episodes later, let's go.
Yeah, the puzzle solving aspect, that's actually something like I want to put more in without. So one of the things that's tricky with development of something like Sim Settlements is I've always tried to follow. So it's like I mentioned earlier that Blizzard has been one of my all-time favorite gaming companies, and mostly I think that came from they have always tried to follow the model of easy to learn, difficult to master, and I love that mentality of like you should be able to like teach somebody the game in a few minutes, but then there should be like a ton of depth for anyone who wants to get way into it.
Yeah.
And so like
It's,
striking
hey,
that balance
here's a
is tough.
Yeah, it's essentially, and I think I'm going to try my very hardest not to keep bringing up Factorio, but I think it's relevant
Hey,
here.
go ahead.
It's you give the player a very basic, simple, understand core mechanic, and then you just use that one mechanic to expand and build. And in Factorio, it's quite literally, resource comes out of the ground. You use an arm to put it into something else, it turns into something else, it turns into something else. And that's a pretty simple concept, but it just expands and splits off so many times that it becomes a complex puzzle.
Right. Yeah, I think the key
that's the one right
that's
there.
the
That
that's
gets
the
me.
that's the thing I think that I've been trying to, or one of the areas where I've got to do better with Sim Settlements. So like I've tried adding layers of complexity in each expansion, and I think the key is all of the layers of complexity need to come at the end. So like not in the end of the game, but like if you imagine a tree of knowledge of like everything has the beginning, the first little bits you need to learn to start, I think need to be just incredibly simple. They need to be just like that. What you said, you pick up things out of the ground and convert them to something else. That's the core gameplay mechanic. And then if you want to add more depth to that, you can, but it should not complicate that beginning piece, especially for new people. Like,
Yeah.
old users could easily pick up 1,000 new mechanics you threw up in the beginning because they're hooked and they already understand that. So then if you throw loops in it, they're like, okay, cool, I can deal with that. But like, you need to have. It's almost like. I'm trying to think, like, it almost needs to look like a tree. Like, you get the trunk, it needs to be just very straightforward and simple, and give people like a linear trail, and then you can start branching off and adding complexity. And that's something that I don't know that I've done a great job of like keeping the complexity added to the end, because a lot of the stuff we've added to some settlements is all like right in your face right away. Like, you can start making advanced industrial right away, you can start doing the maintenance costs right away. And it's really intimidating if you turn all those options on and are suddenly have to deal with them.
Yeah. But that wizard, do you call it a wizard? That intro thing where it asks you, in really vague terms, how complex an experience you want. I mean, that helps a great deal.
Yeah, I think it definitely cut down on support requests. That's for sure. Like, number of people reporting things are broken.
Yeah, I think some people might not understand, and they need to understand that your job with sim settlements is ridiculous, right? So first, you're building it off an existing game that has limitations with what you can alter, and then you've got expansion upon expansion upon expansion. So it ends up being like you dig down far enough and you're finding skeletons of dinosaurs. But you can't change those. They're there.
Right.
Does that make any sense at all?
Oh yeah, no, that's totally accurate. There are certain things. Well, and not only are there limitations in like the fact that we're building on top of somebody else's game that we run into brick walls occasionally. There are now
building on top of yourself as well.
Right. I've created my own brick walls because I didn't anticipate something. So like, for anybody who has looked into the way the building plans are set up for Industrial Revolution, it looks insane. It looks like an idiot. And it's because I didn't conceive of the branching building plan when I started setting out Sim Settlements, but I wanted to make sure that we had backward compatibility with everyone's save files and all the add-on packs. So like the way I did that was the only way that made sense to do it at the time based on my knowledge. I now know I could have done it a different way, but it's now it's too late, and now I've created a second hurdle in that level of complexity I did to try and solve the first one. And so like it's just like this, I've created another web of garbage on top of Bethesda's web of garbage, and like we constantly have to struggle our way through it.
And I'm sure it's totally inconceivable for you to go back and change the original Sim Settlements mod to accommodate what you want to do in the future. Firstly, I imagine if that was even possible, the work involved would be ridiculous. And secondly, you'd also break everyone's game, and it would be a huge hassle for everyone to download all the new stuff.
Right. Well, that's
right? And then you probably have to repatch all the subsequent expansions to accommodate the new system, right?
Oh yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, I have a and I've mentioned this. I think I mentioned this in one other video, but for some people listening, this might be a surprise. But I actually have a code base where I've started some settlements from scratch. Excuse me, to preemptively fix all the problems. But it's it started out, I thought it would take me a few months, and now I've been working on it for most of a year. Like it's such a massive undertaking. And then you said, like there's all sorts of problems with like people's save files and stuff. And I often see a lot of other mods, what they intend to do is they'll just do it anyway and just put a big note on the patch that says do not upgrade a current game. And I'm like, that's, people aren't going to read that. Like,
yeah, but even so, I mean, I don't want to sound like a potentially ungrateful ass, but whenever a mod has that many like conditions, it's like download this if that, and download this but not if that. Right. I'm like, buddy, your mod looks fantastic and I really want to play it, but I haven't got the time to troubleshoot that.
I agree 100%. I have been a huge proponent of simpler mods, especially the installations. Like I think the faux mod installer thing is a crutch. I think that we should all go away from. Like it's great for power users, but like if you want your mod to hit a lot of audience, it's not a good idea. And it also makes, I think the other thing, and I've mentioned this a few times, and it's a controversial opinion in the community, is that we need mod packs. Like,
yeah. I've heard you're discussing this more than a few times.
New people who are interested in modding to be able to have a curated experience from somebody who not only can take the time to fix all the bugs, but also come up with a load order that actually is fun to play together. Because it's very easy to create yourself a bad game experience by just installing a bunch of mods that are popular.
And Steam kind of has that with, are they called collections?
I am unfamiliar
With the workshop.
So
you can people can
for Skyrim.
For everything.
For any game.
So on
maybe.
I've
never
Steam
I've never played with mods through Steam. I've always just used Nexus. So.
Yeah, I prefer Nexus as well. But yeah, just with any game, I'm pretty sure you can set up lists of mods that supposedly work well together, and you put up a collection or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
that's kind of that. But wouldn't it be awesome, just from the perspective of someone new to using mods?
Yeah.
If a bunch of modders got together and said, "Hey, yo, we're all kind of doing stuff that complements each other.
Right.
Let's pack our mods together, brand them as if it's like a free DLC."
Oh, absolutely.
And boom.
I 100% agree. In fact, that's what I want. I want that really badly for myself, just to play like that, because what I'm finding. So in my Let's Play, I thought it would, and it is fun the way we're doing it, but I'm slowly learning more and more how important the mod packs are by doing this. Is like I basically said to the audience, go ahead and suggest mods to me, and I'll just start installing them, and we'll just keep adding them, and we'll see how it goes. But what I found after doing that for about 10 weeks is that there are certain elements of the game that start to look wonky, like visually. like these mods just don't have the same visual style. And then some of the gameplay elements are too easy now because some of these mods oversolved problems and took away balance. And then other things just aren't fun together, like certain aspects of it. And like I don't have the patience to go through and figure it all out. So now what I've done is to prevent it from becoming completely unplayable is I've just basically heavily curated anything else I install. So I read through the mod descriptions and make sure it's a minor change, or like it's not gonna do anything too drastic before I install it. But I don't have the time to do that often. And if I was just trying to have a new experience, this would not be the way to do it. And like when I started, I basically just downloaded like the 50 most popular mods, and it made a bad experience right out of the box. And I think this is what most people who come into modding are having as their first experience. They get a popular mod, and they're like, that was fun. Then they go and download a bunch more, and it's not fun because these mods are not designed with each other. Not all of these modders designed from the same perspective of like, it's, how much do they value immersion? How much do they value balance? How hardcore of a player are they? Are they the type of person that wants their playthrough to go for 1,000 hours, or do they want a 20-hour playthrough? And those have dramatic effects on the way they design their mods.
Absolutely, yeah. How many times have you come across like someone's first mod and they say, "I don't know how good it is. I really just made it for themselves." Sorry, for myself rather, which is great. And just to be clear, that they I'm not suggesting there should be any other reason to make a mod. And that's fantastic that they're sharing it. But it just plays into what you just said. Everyone's making mods for completely different reasons. They have different opinions of what the game should be.
Right.
So yeah, it's a potential nightmare. And then God forbid you come across a mod page that has no description whatsoever. That always gets me,
Yeah, especially in the early days after mods are available for a game, there's just like a bunch of like really sketchy mod pages of people trying to rush to be some of the first. It's like, I don't know about this one. Though that could be a fun experiment too, of like doing a playthrough on a new game where you just like, all right, for this play, and like doing it for Twitch or YouTube, of like, I am literally installing every single mod that comes out, and then like if it breaks my game, we uninstall it, but we're just gonna install everything that comes out.
Oh jeez.
But I guess so. Another reason that I think this could be a lot of fun to have mod packs in Bethesda games is, and we kind of already seen the what happens when you do have it, like with Ultimate Skyrim. I think that's what it's called, but like where you get this, somebody has taken the time to balance all these mods out, come up with the right settings so they work together, and they've picked mods that play nicely together and make a cohesive experience. I think that there's one of the things I'm finding, even with a project like Sim Settlements, which is has a pretty big scale, but it's mostly contained to two aspects. It's either you're dealing with building up and managing settlements, or you're dealing with building up and managing an army now in Conqueror. And I think that we could handle having a full-time balancer on the team where their whole job was to, like, every time we release new content, iterate back through everything we've created and make sure all the numbers still make sense. And so, like, I have always thought there's actually a lot of game development knowledge and game design thought that needs to go into designing a load order. Like, I think that there are some people who take the time to do that, and they do it very well. And you'll find that those people who do that, they will put out their mod packs as a list on, and you'll find some for Fallout and for Skyrim where these people, like, spend, this is the only, like, it'll be the only game they play. And so they've had thousands and thousands of hours to curate this beautiful experience of, like, I can just imagine you, like, I would love to see somebody be like, here's this mod pack that totally overhauls Fallout 4 so it feels like a stealth game, like, where it's like we add all these extra things to make it feel more like a stealth game. Or, like, you could do with, like, appropriate sets of mods, you could convert any of these Bethesda type games, or any game really, into some other genre. So, like, maybe somebody could be like, I'm going to turn Fallout 4 into a roguelike. Like, you could do that with enough, you know what I mean? Like, with enough mods. Or, like, here, now this turns Fallout 4 to feel like a Dark Souls experience. Like,
see, that's what if there was more of that, and maybe I'm just the most unobservant human being on the face of the planet, but I feel like the modding scene for Fallout 4 got to a place and stopped. Sim settlements aside, it's got, like, it's got the survival overhauls. It's got a few of those,
right?
But I don't think there's a lot of this is Fallout, but an entirely different way to play outside of the survival overhauls.
Yeah, and am I wrong? I think you're fairly right. I think there are quite a few complete experience. There are quite a few complete experience overhauls available for Fallout. So, like, there's Frost, which is a huge one.
Yep.
The Nuclear Winter mod that Divine just put out, that's a big, like, completely overhauls the way you play the game. Some Settlements obviously has the capability to do that and, like, give you a whole new direction. Horizon's a huge one like that. What I find is the problem is that very few of those mods tend to play nice together, and I don't think I don't know that there's a solution to that other than having, each of us in these big teams, like, coordinate and be like, all right, what does my mod experience feel like? What would be the version of my mod that would fit well within the experience you're trying to create, and then having to reinvent kind of new option sets for those.
But these guys are modding in their spare time. What they've created is huge and incredible considering that anyway. And then to ask them on top of that, hey, yo, make it work with all the other popular mods.
Right.
You can understand why it hasn't happened,
Right. But I think that with enough, as long as the mods are putting in enough control options, which I think usually the big ones do over time, is, like, you get enough feedback from users and, like, all right, some users like this feature, some users don't like this feature. I think that there's room for a player out there who spends the time and really gets in gritty and knows it all to set up, like, the perfect set of options for each mod to, like, make this cohesive gameplay experience. Like, it's almost like, rather than mods because I think there are plenty of mods to totally overhaul your experience, but I would love to see more like this is, again, mod pack of where somebody took the time to figure out all the options and all the mods and everything that create a new experience even beyond those, because some of the mod created experiences might be too limited in scope, or might be too far off from what you want. Like, something like Frost is such a brutal experience that it's just not for everybody, like, as is. But
it strips out, like, most of the NPCs too, right?
Right. It kind of turns
it's a completely different world.
Completely, yeah. It strips out a whole lot of the gameplay, but it's designed to just make it seem like a very, very harsh world, and more about. It turns it into more of, like, a survival simulator than an RPG.
Did you ever see The Road with Viggo Mortensen?
Maybe years ago. How old is that? That was out a while ago, right?
A few years, yeah. I think that's Frost.
Okay, fair.
It's just the most depressing, brutal experience, but what an experience.
Sure. Yeah, so I think ModPass could potentially do that, but then there's other. So there are certain things where you want them all to mesh in. For example, like quest mods, or a mod like Sim Settlements, where it would probably do well with a lot of other experiences. Like it probably meshes well with some of the other stuff that some of the other mods are trying to do. Maybe something like Sim Settlements isn't a good fit with something like Frost, because the whole idea is the world is way too brutal for you to be building up cities again in it. Like maybe that.
But it could really work as almost like a Dark Souls bonfire sort of thing. The outposts that you set up are the only safe havens in that brutal world.
Sure. Okay.
Depends what sort of experience you want.
But that's the thing, is I think that there's a study I always cite, and I wish I remembered the name of it, but a grocery store chain did this, and they figured out that the optimal number of choices for peanut butter brands was 7. And it's this mental thing that when people are presented with too many choices, they tend to freeze up and take no action instead. Because it's some I don't know all the psychology behind it, but effectively it means when we have too much choice, we might as well have no choice, because it's just too overwhelming.
Option paralysis.
Yeah, option paralysis, exactly. And I think we have that a lot going on in the mod community. Like I think there's a reason
we have that a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel that way with entertainment options for sure. Like I don't even when I sit down to watch, like I have subscriptions to a bunch of the different services and whatnot. Once in a while, when I have an hour or something, like I find I can watch TV while I'm designing buildings, because it just uses a totally different part of my brain. I guess I can focus on that. So I don't know what to watch anymore. Like there's too much. There's too many options. So then I just turn on YouTube or Twitch.
You can waste your whole night just trolling Netflix. But I guess on YouTube it's like you go, I'm in the mood to watch this personality, and as long as you're there just for the personality, you can pretty much just watch whatever. So that's a good solution.
But the mod thing, I think we have the mod problem in that you get all these cool mods installed, and each of them has this plethora of options. Like for example, there's this really cool mod called Game Configuration Menu, and it basically, I believe it uses the script extender, and they dove in and tied into, so the base game has all these settings Bethesda put in for themselves, and it was clearly they did it as a way so they could iterate and test quicker, and it'll be things like your max range for grenade throwing, or like all the types of things where you never find a mod that alters them generally. But there are all these hard-coded little things that in the game you probably don't think about. And this lets you tweak them all in real time in the game. And I'm like, that type of thing seems really cool if you... it seems really cool for somebody who understands balance and game design to have to play with, and then creates option sets for the rest of us. Because I think most people, what they'll end up doing with a tool like that is they'll either they'll min or max. It'll just be like I pushed it all the way to the end and then it's extreme and ridiculous, or all the way down to make it really hardcore on myself. But I doubt a lot of people really make use of the nuance in there. Like I'm sure there are a handful of people, and those people who understand, imagine trying to rebalance something like the economy in a game like that. It's a monumental challenge to do it correctly, to actually give yourself, because it's not just about like the balance on stuff like that is so weird to even think about, of like you need it to be things to feel scarce early and then slowly become less scarce over time, but then you also need to make sure that certain things maintain constant value throughout the game, and then you have to factor in perks into that, and like that I don't know how I wouldn't even be able to begin to do that. And it's effectively the same thing when you start tweaking other values. So when you start introducing mods that change fundamental gameplay that was balanced around certain ideas, like the effects that you have in a chain really hit hard. And I know this is probably it sounds like overthinking this, but after this is just coming from my last 16 weeks of doing this Let's Play with constantly adding mods, of like how one little change can have this like huge cascading effect on the whole way I approach the rest of the game. Like somebody pointed out to me, for example, that Jet can be crafted incredibly easily. It's like plastic and manure or something stupid like that. Like it's like and I'm like, okay, well by I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know that. But then when I found out, I rejected it because I realized I was having so much fun by treating Jet as like the most important commodity for my character and only looting it. And like little things like that are only going to come out of lots of hours of experience. To think of that now, having gone through that, I would say it would be fun for a character who is going to focus on chems to delete the recipe to make jet so that it does become a valuable commodity for you. And that type of thing, you could build a whole gameplay loop and a whole set of mods that are like, all right, here is the type of character you'll be playing, and like these mods will help you do that and have fun with it.
I can't tell you how many times I restart games, and it's partially because I just enjoy the early scarcity gameplay of so many games way more than the mid and late game. I just get such a kick out of it, and the hope and planning of what's it going to turn into. And then I get there, I'm like, this is, I feel like shit now. This is this.
That's the whole. That's that whole thing about life. Pay me
back
right?
to
They
the
say
glory
it's
days.
about the journey. And so like early parts of the RPG are a journey. I think the problem with Bethesda games is that they're so well balanced early, and then I think Bethesda themselves get to that point I described of like, how do you balance that? And they're just like, screw it.
Yeah.
Like we gave them 20
it feels
hours
like that.
of balance.
It does.
Like let them screw it. But like with mods,
But
you can break
that
it
kind
way
of
easier,
plays into,
or way earlier. You can break that whole scarcity early.
Yeah, that kind of plays into how I used to do my YouTube series back when I was the roleplay gamer.
Sure.
I would create rules that would force us into those situations of scarcity or whatever. You know, it's or even when I was doing, even earlier when I was doing the so-called roleplay builds, it was a build not focused on min-maxing, but a build focused on a certain playstyle and a certain type of character, role-playing a certain type of character.
Sure.
And the meme on the channel was, oh, he just doesn't like healing. And this was started in Skyrim. And it was because a lot of my characters, one of the rules was no restoration magic.
Okay.
Because it's like, hey, I'm a hunter. I don't know magic. We're not using restoration magic. Even though it would be really easy, we're only going to use potions.
Right.
You know, or food or whatever. And it made that was born out of, I've played so much Skyrim, I'm bored. So let's add some restrictions. It was like me mentally modding in my own gameplay rules, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is the best way to go with the Bethesda games, because I think really at the heart, Bethesda games, and this is one of the things 76 tried to capitalize on, I think, is that Bethesda's games at their heart are just sandbox games. Like they pretend to be RPGs, but in reality they're unbalanced sandbox games. Mm-hmm. And I think when you set yourself your own rules like that, like you get to engage in that. And like the RPG, like RPing is perfect for it. Like to just come up with, like I'm having so much fun with my character because I've decided they're a raider who's addicted to jet and, you know, occasionally dabbles in science stuff. And like just like working within that frame, like I make my decisions accordingly, and it's just a lot of fun. And it takes away a lot of then you ignore a lot of the broken parts of the game, like that are inherently broken because it is a sandbox game, and it's clear that they didn't care. Because it's, I mean, how do you balance? I'm sure there are people out there who believe you can balance out all these things perfectly. I think most game developers who have to deal with like League of Legends developers, like they know it's impossible to actually balance all of these different things that have, you know, that are all different mechanics that don't all work the same way. Like that you're never going to have perfect balance. There's always a kind of meta going on there.
Or maybe it is possible, but it's just going to take so much time and then result in possibly even more people just hating it. Can you imagine? It's like, oh, now my favorite skill is nerfed.
Right. So it just becomes
madness.
It becomes unfun. And like I think that the putting in the self-imposed restrictions makes it so then when you find something that's like blatantly broken for your particular play style, or it's like, okay, well it's kind of like I remember playing Morrowind in high school, and when I found the mud crab, I ruined the game for myself. Like are you familiar with the mud crab?
The mud crab.
I
feel like maybe not then.
There's a mud crab in Morrowind that had like 10,000 septims on him at all times.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Well, it wasn't at all times, but he would reset his inventory fairly quickly. So you could just go hoard a bunch of stolen goods, go down to the mud crab, hawk them to him. Then you have like crazy gold, which gold was used for enchanting and spellcrafting. So then you would just go create yourself like these god tier items and spells. And you just repeat that loop. And then you just ignore the rest of the game because it's like, all right, well, nothing is better than what I can craft with enough gold. So your gameplay loop, instead of exploring and finding cool stuff, became rob people and sell to Mudcrab and do that as your loot. And it was like, okay, well, I just ruined the whole game for myself. And like I can't wait if somebody actually, if they do a remaster or the Skywind team ever comes through and releases, I would love to go give that game a second chance and ignore the Mudcrab. But but like stuff like that, I think there's so much potential to ruin these games for yourself. And I think a lot of people end up doing it unintentionally by going crazy with mods, or like, you know, every little thing that they're like, oh, I don't really want to do that. They just find a mod to solve it. And it's like, well, then like at a certain point, if you automate everything or take away all the challenge, then like, why are you playing a game? Like, why not just watch a
I usually
play?
like, I usually like mods that make things.
Rick is playing for you. You don't even have to play.
That's right. Come on over to Twitch, baby. No, I don't play Bethesda games anymore. I phrase that poorly. I probably will in the future.
You're not playing Bethesda games currently. Yeah.
Right now, that's correct. Thank you.
Because you've said many times, I'm done for a while, and then the next thing we know, it's season 5 of Frank.
That's right. You know. But I usually download mods that make things harder or different.
Sure.
And different usually means harder in a different way. Right. I don't like cheat mods. So I'm actually not sad that we don't really have cheats in games anymore. Because
like cheat codes, like the old school, just type in a godly code. Yeah. Well, we kind of have.
I sort of
developer
ruined
codes often.
Oh yeah. But they're not like, you know, I remember vividly Age of Empires 1 and 2. You could look up the cheat codes for it. Spawn in a car with machine guns. You know, ruins the game for you.
Yeah.
But so I should probably head off soon, get back to work. But there's one thing I want to ask you, and then I'm gonna answer my own question.
All right.
Is there any mod that hasn't been made for Fallout 4 that you would love to see made?
There is now, because C. Dante described it to me, and it sounds amazing.
Okay.
So did you ever play any of the old isometric Fallout games?
No, I started
the
first one, I think, but never got around to finishing.
Gotcha. Yeah, the first one's was a kind of a tough one to trog through, especially because at some point the game puts a time limit on itself, and then if you don't finish it within that time, you just lose, which sucked. But there's you're aware of the basic mechanic of like when you fast travel, there's a chance for random encounters.
Yeah. That's old school RPG, Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I love that feature, and I like using fast travel because I don't want to have to trog through everything. But you miss out on a lot of cool potential stuff that might happen during that.
And it can feel a little cheaty.
Right. And so Sidante described an idea he had that would fix that. So it would be one of two ways he described. One would be he would put your character in fast forward, so it looked like they were walking really, really fast to the destination.
Okay.
Or two, the screen would go to black, but there'd be a chance for a random encounter, and you would pop out in like a bubble zone where there was like a black sphere around your character, and just the encounter enemies were around you, and you would have a limited game world space to play in. And then you basically bring back that old school RPG random encounter system into Fallout 4. Like that sounds awesome, because it would be a great way to still play with fast travel without feeling like you're cheating.
Would it be possible to? I assume this would potentially be a modding nightmare, but it'd be dope. Could you have the game calculate like a line between where you are and where you're fast traveling to, and there's a chance along that line that you will be stopped and they add enemies? So like if you're traveling through a raider camp, for example, you could potentially be stopped at the camp and have to fight it.
Yeah, I think so. I think this should be possible because there's already there's the perk called Vans, which puts like a line on the ground to show your objectives. So it clearly exists. I don't know how we tap into it. Some of this stuff, like C. Dante does script extender modding, so he can pretty much do whatever he imagines. I have been adamant about sticking to base stuff because I want to be able to get my stuff pushed out to Xbox. So I don't know if I could do something like that without the script extender, but it's sometimes just like setting yourself out some sort of objective like that gives you the motivation to go brute force your way through it and make
Oh
invent
yeah.
it to work. Like half of Sim Settlements works on that premise of just like I just am bullheaded and made it work.
You got to be a bit bullheaded.
So what you said you were going to answer your own question. So what is the
Yeah.
mod that you want to see? And are you talking Fallout 4 or are
Okay.
you talking about any Bethesda game?
No, we're talking about Fallout 4. There are
Got it.
two in particular that I've always wanted to see. And I'm deadly frightened that I'm going to mention them, and then you're going to say, oh, yeah, that's a mod that was just released a month ago that because you haven't been playing the game. In which case, I will
that'll get you back.
download the game. Yeah. So first and foremost, you can
Okay.
cobble this concept together vaguely, but not in a way that really satisfies me. A power armor overhaul
Okay.
that first and foremost, as some mods already do, give you more options and customization in adjusting how your power armor functions.
Okay.
That can be done already. But on top of that, I want the power armor to function as a mobile base. Now make no mistake, not as like a cheaty over the top, you can craft anything from it, but like I'm out in the Commonwealth surviving, and I want to be able to just survive out of my power armor.
So like the
So
the butt flat comes down and it's a cooking stove.
Something like that. But there is a mod that gives you mobile crafting benches.
Right.
I think you talked to the author of that mod a little while ago.
Yeah, Fading Signal has
In a
one like
podcast?
that. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. That's fantastic. But like that integrated in with a power armor overhaul sort of thing that just again, we were talking about changing the play style.
Right.
So your play style would be your power armor is your home, or
Right.
like
so like
your
power
horse
armor's
or
like
something, and
or
you're customizing
or it's like
it.
it's like your Mad Max car. Like you're just like
Yeah, that's the one.
Your whole
Exactly.
survival is based around your power armor. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be really cool. Another character playthrough I thought of that somebody could put together with an appropriate set of mods, that this would be someone designing a game out of mods, would be something you mentioned briefly, I think, in one of your seasons of Some Settlements. But it, like, you always have these character ideas of how you're going to play them out, but because you're just focused on the building, we never see the character come to life, really.
Yeah.
Was a like a turret class where like you deploy turrets out in the world, and like you're more like an engineer letting those do your battle. Like I think that could definitely if the mods don't exist already, a couple of small mods could be made plus a bunch of existing mods put together to make that as like a viable play skill or play style.
Yeah,
and that's like your whole
pretty sure we can cobble that together with the mobile turret mod. I think there's actually a couple of them, and the mobile crafting benches. That'd work.
But like that's the type of thing where like, I think that mod packs would be amazing for someone to create, like custom cater that experience, and like these are the mods you're going to want to use to pull this off. I've tweaked some options so that they're balanced with each other. I've disabled a bunch of other options that would allow you to bypass the core gameplay loop. Like that second part I think is key. Is like, because these Bethesda mods are kind of like more like sandboxes than RPGs, it's so easy to break your own gameplay loop with like introducing other little aspects. It would be cool to see somebody like find all those loopholes that you would ruin your own experience with and disable them.
Yeah. All right,
man. It's been
one
great
last
talking with you.
mod idea.
Sure, go ahead.
The other one I want
Okay.
is turning the glowing sea
Okay.
into a semi-roguelike dungeon.
Oh.
So you can go, hey, I want to go grind some shit.
Okay.
Let's go to the glowing sea, and it's a brutal challenge, and it's a little bit different every time.
Okay. But
You come out with some mad loot and some experience.
But without the permadeath.
Yes. Or I'm pretty sure there's a mod that already exists that there is no death. So when you die, it reasons that you've been captured or something.
Sure.
And it spits you out somewhere else in the world. You could throw that in there.
Oh, what if it was, if you die, you lose everything you gained while you were there? So that's like effectively death, because you basically wasted all of your time, but you didn't lose your character.
Yeah.
That could be really cool. Yeah, see, there's so much
And
that
then-
can be done still. There's so much that can be done.
Then you take that power armor as a mobile base idea, you take it into the glowing sea roguelike mod, and you're killing it.
And you see how long you can live with your little
That's the
mobile
one.
base. Yeah. That sounds pretty awesome.
That'd be wild.
It would be. All right, man. Well, it's been awesome talking with you. I really appreciate everything you did for the channel for a while there, and all of the motivation you gave me in the early parts when you were playing on YouTube. I know it was a lot of work for you to do that, and you really helped make the mod better. You inspired me to keep improving and making things more user-friendly. And you showed me that people cared about the mod. So many thanks, sir, for all you did.
My pleasure. Thank you for making a fantastic mod and saving Fallout 4 for me.
Well, hopefully we can make it good enough to where you come back and give us a season 6. I think you made it to season 5. I think you have many fans who would love to see season 6 and Frank come out of retirement one of these days.
We'll see. We'll see how we go.
All right, man. Great talking with you.